So my kids outgrew their old swing set. I got put in charge of building a new one. So I had some telephone poles laying around that I was just gonna build a new swing frame out of the poles. But I was staring at the maple trees one night and I realized that there's a spot in this tree and a spot in the next tree where this telephone pole would just lay right across. And I think that makes the perfect swing set. I mean, it is an added bonus that I didn't have to do anything other than shove it up there with the skid loader. This is natural. This is a sustainable swing set until obviously a storm comes along and blows one of these trees down. Then I'll have to build the frame that I was supposed to have to build this swing. We get maple syrup from these trees, and now we get fun from these trees. What do you think? Well, we had another flood already, and good news is all that junk right there is the junk that used to be in the North Creek crossing, all caught up in the cattle panels. But I guess the bad news that comes along with that, we got all this new stuff stuck in the panels. I mean, that's like a whole tree right there. It's not just brush. Pretty serious stuff. If you look at it from around the backside here, look at all of that stuff that's piled up on there. Woo! This is going to be quite a project. Originally thought we were going to be able to pull it all out to the north, but Ben just realized that we can probably put a tractor up there, hook around the bottom of that right there, and yank it all up that way. Well, that creek project's going to wait till the end of the week until the water level drops a little bit. Today, got the planter hooked back up. Man, what we have here is one really filthy planter. There's dirt all over it. There's mud all over it. There's corn stalks all over it. Dust. It is a mess. So I'm going to get this thing cleaned up, get it ready to put away for the winter. And I think while I've got it out, I think this would probably be a pretty good time to look over some of the high wear items, what's going to need replaced before we get started for 2023. But before I get busy tearing the planter apart, I flushed the tanks on the tractor out with water and ran some through the pump. Now I'm going to go back the planter out against the cornfield and run a bunch of water through the planter and make sure I've got all the last of the nitrogen out of the hoses and knives on the planter. Then we'll come back here, start tearing row units apart. So these conceal knives, if you're not familiar with this system, this is how we put the nitrogen in the ground right next to the furrow. These gauge wheels are split in half and that knife runs right down the middle of the gauge wheel. And then once you set your planter down on the ground, your knife sticks out in the ground below the gauge wheel. It's nice to be able to get that nitrogen down in the ground and have it right there next to the furrow where you need it. It's nice to not be dribbling it on top of the ground and worrying about whether or not you're going to get a timely rain, so that stuff gets into the soil before it evaporates away. It's just nice to bury it right where it needs to be as you're planting. It's such a slick operation. I will be changing all the ends of these knives out this year. As you can see, there's a bolt right here. You just pop the end of this knife off, put a new one on. I did notice when I was cleaning out these holes, I've got this wire brush that fits up in the hole on the end of the knife. And I did notice as I was brushing out these knives that you can see that wire brush right through the side of the knife right there. You're not supposed to be able to see that. That's got a lot of wear, at least here on the one side of it. Now, one thing that I did do this year that I should have done last year is I actually cranked these knives up out of the ground when I went to no-tilling beans. We don't put any liquid down with our beans, but last year I just drug these knives through the ground the whole time I was planting beans. And in the no-tilled ground, that was pretty hard on them because we had some really, really hard ground last year. Really a lot of unnecessary wear on these knives. So I should be able to get a few years out of them. This time I only got 2 years out of some of these because, like I say, I shouldn't have been pulling them around in the ground when I wasn't actually injecting any liquid. But we'll probably just go ahead and replace all of them this year because they're not a very expensive item, and then we'll know that they're all the same when we get started next year. Okay, enough chit chat. Let's start tearing into this thing. The first thing I'm going to do is take all these meters off, get the seed discs out of them, and then underneath the meter there's a seed tube that drops the seed all the way down into the furrow. I'm going to pull all those seed tubes out, and I should be able to blow all of the junk out of the inside of the frame on each row unit. Then we can worry about getting all the stuff blown off the outside of it and get things ready to wash. So I've had a few people in the comments express their displeasure with me playing music during drone footage and time lapses like this. So I've always wondered what it would be like if there wasn't any music. I guess that's what some people want. So I just feel like this is going to be awkward, but here's some silence while I tear the planter apart. So which team are you on? Did you enjoy the sound of silence? Or would you rather have... Actually, I wouldn't mind playing the sound of silence. That's a really good song. I have to look into that. Would you rather have music? Let me know in the comments section. I'm going to show you how I take these seed tubes out. I've still got one left to take out. This is how you do it. So once you lift the meter off, you want to take these seed tubes out. You just pinch these two tabs together right here. And there's a little hole in the side of the frame. You can see that little piece of plastic goes in and out of. That's what actually holds it down in there. So you pinch those tabs together. Of course, there's a bunch of junk in between them, which makes it hard. Pinch them together, pull the whole thing back. Then it really saves your fingers if you get on the back of it with a pair of pliers, and you can just yank the whole thing up and out of there. Got to unplug the wire harness. And there's our seed tube. While I've got all these laid out here, it's a really good time to just kind of give them all the once over. Make sure there's no cracks in the plastic. Make sure the wires are good on the sensor. There aren't any frayed wires. It's really important that the inside of this tube is nice and smooth all the way from the top, all the way down the bottom and out, because it's really important for that seed to have a nice smooth trip down this tube and into the furrow. That one looks really good. I did notice that this one is getting really thin on this bottom corner. That'll be something to watch. If those inside scrapers wear out and your disc openers start to rub against the tube, it won't be very long before it'll wear through that and start to curl the plastic in to the tube, and then that seed can bounce off that curl on the bottom and give you a lot of trouble. Now that I have all the discs pulled out of the meters, this wants to be a nice flat surface to seal up against the rubber door seals. Take a look at these rubber door seals. They were new a year ago. They're still in really good shape. They're not cracked. They're not hard. These little wheels seem to be in good shape yet. There's not a lot of wear there. And then these brushes. You want to make sure your brushes are in good shape, not missing a bunch of bristles. These meters seem to be in pretty good shape, and they should be, because we just replaced a lot of these wear parts in the last 2 or 3 years. All right, it's time to give the air compressor a big workout, get all the dirt and junk out of the inside of these row units. I learned the hard way a couple of years ago that all this stuff packed in here like that, you really don't want to just go right at it with the power washer, because you end up with mud inside of everything. It's way easier if you can get all this dry stuff off with the air compressor first. Well, I've got a lot done in the last hour. I've got a big mess here in front of the shop now. I'm almost to the point where I'm ready to start using water to clean this thing, I think. But it's 5:30. I still need to go do hog chores. I kind of want to get this mess cleaned up in front of the shop because it's supposed to rain tonight. So I think I'm going to call it quits on this planter project for today. There's something exciting behind the shed. Let's go. Are you guys seeing what I'm seeing? The sweet corn is tasseled, which means it's going to be time to put up the sweet corn fence, and soon it's going to be time to eat glorious Iowa sweet corn. Man, I'm already getting excited. Anyway, that's about going to wind it up for today. I'm going to end this video with a little footage from Kaylee's second dog show. the agility show. That was a lot of fun. See you guys next week.